You mentioned like blood sugar management as one of the aspects of inflammation. So, I would imagine then, this diabetes and hyperglycemia and hyperinsulinemia is going to cause inflammation and also promote like autoimmunity.
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, if you look at the statistics, when you have blood sugar problems, dysglycemia, metabolic syndrome, syndrome X, prediabetes, diabetes, these things double the risk factor of just about everything. They double
Oh,
heart attack and the leading cause of heart attack and stroke. They shorten your telomeres. They increase oxidative stress. They double risk of anxiety and depression, double risk of fatigue. They increase likelihood of autoimmune flares. Like there's so much. Like that's a foundational system you have to get sorted out to ever really reclaim your health. So if someone's dealing with that, that's pretty early on in the to-do list
right.
from my standpoint.
Yeah. And usually that's, blood sugar management or poor blood sugar also walks hand in hand with like obesity and excess visceral fat, which then secretes more of these pro-inflammatory cytokines into the bloodstream all the time. So you're basically
Yeah.
chronically inflamed all the time on a habitual basis.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's definitely true. And then you see all these people that are, thinner, but still have insulin resistance too, which it's like
Right.
people need to realize that, yeah, it's like the people that are struggling with metabolic issues and weight loss resistance and obesity, that's something we need to look at, and leptin resistance. But there are many people that have these metabolic issues, but they're thin. So society tells them, oh, like everything's fine because it's how you look. But the reality is, it's amazing to me how many metabolic issues I find on labs on thin people too, what they call skinny fat. I mean that's a term for it, but these insulin resistance patterns in thin people need to be talked about as well.
Mm. So how would you approach fixing insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome? You also have like a ketotarian book. So do you find like a value for keto in helping with this?
Yes, so much so. So Ketotarian, which is my first book, I actually referred to as in the book, I mentioned this concept of the inflammation spectrum in Ketotarian actually first, because beta hydroxybutyrate is not just a way to burn fat, which is certainly part of that, lipolysis and improving fat burning. Yes, mechanism, that is true. But it's also a signaling molecule, an epigenetic modulator, to do really cool things for our health, like downregulating inflammation, like the NF-kappa B pathway, the COX-2 pathway, NLRP3 inflammasome, all these pro-inflammatory cytokines. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, the ketone, is a natural anti-inflammatory. That's an amazing tool that we use for people clinically. So I talked about this concept of the inflammation spectrum in Ketotarian. So yes, the ketogenic diet is a great tool to attenuate inflammation levels, to help support balanced inflammatory cascades, to not only leverage the benefits of ketosis, at least times of ketosis for people, but focusing on really nutrient-dense, clean ketogenic foods too, to really marry the benefits of both. So that's what I wanted to do with Ketotarian. It's a mostly plant-based ketogenic way of eating. I'm not I talk about my own journey in there of how I was a vegan for many years and how that evolved to ketotarian, which is still mostly plant-based, but it has pescatarian keto options, vegetarian keto and vegan keto. And I'm not anti-meat either. And I mentioned that in the book, like bring grass-fed beef in too, but it's just a clean, nutrient-dense ketogenic diet is really what it is.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's an amazing tool, and intermittent fasting is part of that as well, which I'm able to explore. My next book, it's called Intuitive Fasting. So it's kind of a part 2 of Ketotarian. It comes out early 2021. And it's really, I'm continuing the conversation that I started in Ketotarian in the Intuitive Fasting book, because I want people to use both of these tools, which is a clean, nutrient-dense ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting, because they're really part of the same thing. The more metabolically flexible somebody is, the more they'll just randomly do time-restricted feeding and intermittent fasting. And conversely, the more someone is intermittent fasting, the more they're going to be keto adapted.
Yeah.
Both of them, obviously, you know this, but for people that don't know, they both increase beta hydroxybutyrate. They both increase this anti-inflammatory pathway and autophagy and all these pro-antioxidant and longevity pathways and increasing stem cells and mitochondrial biogenesis, all the same cool stuff. They happen to both because they both put you into ketosis. So I think they're both amazing tools to lower inflammation levels and do all this cool stuff that I need to get my patients to.